Fine, I'll walk. I'm trying to get in 100,000 steps this hour.
Look at this! I took 9 million steps today.
So here's my spoiler-free review on the Detective Pikachu movie and a comparison between the game and the movie. And just so you guys know, this is the second part of a two-parter video. So if you want to check out the first part, click the little card that appears on the top right. But if you've already seen that, then let's head straight into the movie. So Detective Pikachu's cast is an unusual one. Like, they're not weird, they just don't remind me of the original characters. But that's just video game movies, I guess. Sorry, movie. Justice Smith had a pretty rocky start, but once you get to the scene where they run around trying to see if anyone can understand Pikachu, his performance is pretty solid. And in general, I love what they did with the characters. Video game Tim, boring, generic, and perfect anime protagonist. Movie Tim, someone with flaws who grows throughout the movie. Catherine Newton also had a rocky start, but that was only because her first line was supposed to sound bad. Other than that, she portrays her character as a news company's intern pretty well. The thing is though, while she does do a good job at what she's trying to portray, I just don't like it. I found her annoying, but maybe that's what they were going for? She's just this underappreciated person throughout the whole film, until she meets up with Tim and they work together. That's really all there is to her. I don't know why they made a completely new character though, since the game already had Amelia to fill her role. The two aren't the same characters, but they could have still had Amelia as a nod to the game rather than changing her up completely. The only other returning character other than Detective Pikachu and Mewtwo is Roger Clifford, who's the head of the news company that Lucy works for. He actually did look similar to his game counterpart, but his character and the way he spoke was weirdly different. That's all I can really say about him though, since if I said anything else there would be major spoilers. For some reason they renamed the news company, and the Baker Detective Agency doesn't exist anymore. They were pretty pointless changes which didn't add or take away from the story, but since I played the game before watching the movie, it just felt odd to me. I liked how they handled Mewtwo in this movie too. In the game, he seemed like he mainly sat on the sidelines, but in the movie he has a much bigger role. And finally, we get to Detective Pikachu himself. Although the casting of Ryan Reynolds was weird, I liked him a lot. Pikachu would constantly spew out quips, and is just a really fun and energetic character. Unlike the game counterpart, this Detective Pikachu isn't very egotistical. Alright, cinematography and the presentation and CGI and all that. Unlike the game, the Detective Pikachu movie doesn't do a lot of world building. Like, there's a shot where you get to see the city filled with Pokemon living together, and that's really it. Rather, it likes to explore certain situations, like how it'd be like to interrogate a Mr. Mime, or what an illegal Pokemon battle club would be like. All the Pokemon do look pretty good, except for like Mr. Mime because he looks too human to be a Pokemon. The city at first looks like a lot of ugly CGI during the beginning of the movie, when they try establishing how people and Pokemon work and live together, but once we move back into the more self-contained ground level shots, it seems pretty good. But even later, where you see Pikachu running around on the rooftops and bouncing off balloons, it looks pretty good. The CGI in general could have still been a lot better though, mainly in the Pokemon that aren't Detective Pikachu himself, and in that specific scene where the forest starts moving that you saw in the trailers. The designs are great though, don't get me wrong, but the CGI is just kinda standard. I even like how some of the Pokemon look weird. Pokemon is a world full of weird creatures, so they might as well look weird. Okay, so did I like the story for Detective Pikachu is the big question. Let's start with the long answer. Detective Pikachu is not very detective-y. It's more of a comedy and adventure. There's a mystery to uncover, but they never really find a clue and analyze it. The closest thing to being a detective thing they do is interrogate the Mr. Mime. They didn't even use Pikachu's ability to talk to Pokemon much. I think they only used that once, where it actually impacted the story, which was weird since it was a pretty big part of the game. They even mentioned that ability in the movie and used it as a reason for Tim and Pikachu to team up.
Look, you can talk to humans, I can talk to Pokemon. And if you want to find your pops, we're gonna need each other.
No, I don't need a Pokemon.
What about a world-class detective?
The rest of the movie involves them traveling to locations to find out what's going on, but then they just end up being told what happened rather than discovering it. The lack of actual proper mystery solving is a pretty minor issue though, since the marketing makes the film out to be more of a comedy. Although, with all the extensive lore that's already been established in the Pokemon franchise, I think it would have been great to see a real mystery-heavy story, which have clues that link to all the lore so that big Pokemon fans can actually solve the mystery themselves as the movie goes along. Instead, they made something up that wasn't originally in the Pokemon lore and made that thing the big reveal instead, which is okay. With a franchise with such an extensive lore, it would be hard to create a plot twist if the answer can be googled before the movie comes out. I know Spider-Man Homecoming made some changes from the source material and used those changes for a big plot twist, and it really paid off in the end. The third act of the film is very action heavy. At this point the villain is revealed, so all they have to do is stop them in a fight. And speaking of the villain, his motivations are non-existent. He's just doing an evil thing just for the sake of doing an evil thing. There is a reason why he wanted to do that evil thing. Like there was a genuinely good thing he was trying to do, and then he made it into an evil thing for literally no reason. The jokes in this movie were funny. I think this is a genuinely funny movie. I even ended up smiling a bit during jokes that I've seen in trailers, which I think is a pretty good achievement. The pacing is also really fast. There's constant talking, information thrown at you left and right. I really think this should have been a 2.5 hour long film instead of a 1 hour and 40 minute one. I think the movie is average at best. I like the Pokemon franchise, but I'm not a die-hard fan, so I probably missed a ton of Easter eggs, so I probably wasn't enjoying it to the fullest extent that it could be enjoyed. It's definitely going to be a really fun movie for kids, and there's some adult humor in there as well to enjoy if you're that kind of person. Like, they made a cocaine and a porn joke in there. And I didn't hear this, but my sister said that Tim said poop, but it's the bad word for poop and not literally poop. But if you're worried your kid will copy bad words, they said it during a moment that would easily pass your kid's mind, so don't worry. So, how does the story hold up to the game? Which one is better? Which one do I recommend? Well, firstly, I think the movie and the game both have different forms of humor, so I check out the trailers first and see which one suits you better. The movie definitely has more interesting characters that you may be able to relate with, or not, because Tim's story is pretty depressing, and I'm sure most of you guys' lives are not that depressing, but it's still relatable if you can relate. The villain in the game is a lot better since his motivations are a lot clearer, but I honestly think they built the villain up better in the movie. Like, I didn't know who the villain was until the very end of the game, but in the movie, you could suspect it if you paid enough attention to the clues. I think in the end though, if you're just looking forward to slowly uncovering a mystery, then watch Detective Pikachu gameplay since the actual game is not worth playing. But if you want a story that's fast and very lively, then the movie is definitely the route to take. If you've already played the game, the story does deviate. So it's still worth checking out if you can look past the lack of actual detective elements and a good villain. The movie also provides a lot more closure than the video game, so you'll be leaving the cinema or your pirated MP4 or maybe a legally bought copy satisfied. It's pretty ironic how a movie that already has a sequel being discussed has more closure to a game that hasn't had any sequels announced. Although, with the ending the movie had, I'm curious on how they will make a sequel. But anyways guys, if you like that video, please give it a like. If you want to see more videos like these, subscribe. And if you want to talk to me directly, check out my Twitter or my Discord server. And like at the end of every video, I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.
You can hear him, right?
Pika Pika!
Yeah, Pika Pika Pika, he's adorable.
You're adorable.
Pika 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 pika! That answers that question. So why can I understand them? Pika! Hey, get out of the road! Pika! Pika 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 pika!